Hey guys, welcome to Beyond the Girl, episode 3. So we are here with Britt and Maria. If you're new to the podcast, thanks for tuning in. And this week we want to give a huge congrats to Britt because she just competed at the Toronto Pro Show and you won your class. Tell us how you went.
Yeah, there was 12 people in my class, which was honestly pretty big because in the Canadian shows, they're normally a little bit smaller. I know American's different, but American shows, but yeah, so I was happy with first in my class. And then the overall, I think I was placed like third overall or whatever. And they gave away 2 pro cards. I was so close.
So close.
I know, but that's okay. The 2 girls deserved it. They looked insane. But honestly, for next time, I think it's just in my back shot, my glutes were just flat, I think, and my tie-ins weren't really there, and they normally are, but we had to, with what I have and my muscle that I have, we had to fill me out a little bit more because that was a feedback from my last show. So we did everything right in what they asked in terms of like conditioning and how to come in, but it was just that little bit that threw it off, I think. So just growing and improving.
So were you two a little so you just lacked fullness? It wasn't that you were...
like my front shot was bang on, but in my back shot it was just, in my stomach too, like I learned how to take in my stomach even more by letting all my air out, whereas before I just used to stand up tall and just vacuum, but now I'm like letting all my air out, and I just kind of learned how to do that in the last week before my show. So I was like, when I would do it and I couldn't breathe, and all the adrenaline's running and my heart's going, and so I'd have to like release. I'm like, and then get back into position. So I'm like, do I look like a hippo? And then I don't, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was a lot in the posing, and I hadn't held it for that long ever. And that's
because that's like muscle endurance. You need to build that over time.
People don't understand how hard it is to pose as we're standing there smiling in one spot, but it is so difficult. And especially like I need to hold my poses longer. And I think now I know to just work on my posing more. And that was, my routine's fine, but it's just more like my confidence and everything. Like my routine was great, but it's just, I can add so much more and just hit those poses so much better. And like some photos that I saw, even bang on the center, I was like, oh, I could be standing up a little bit taller. I could, there's little things that I saw in my posing that I could improve on. So yeah, but overall I was really happy about it and everything. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I feel like every show you take what you presented and you obviously consider the things that you need to work on, because even with like posing or anything, I feel like you can always improve. There's never that time where you're like, okay, this is enough. It's never enough. There's always better. So definitely I know what you mean in terms of you have a routine, but if the routine doesn't have like a live personality where you just like draw the eyes of the judges towards you, that can make a huge difference in your posing. Like the routine will not matter, more so how you present it. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And it's hard to like gauge sometimes. If you eat too much to go for the fullness, then you end up with obviously you end up with a full tummy, and you also don't want to like cause that so your front pose will look like you have a belly. Not even a belly,
but if I didn't eat as much as I did though, my glutes would look even flatter. So it was like I kind of like how I went in was kind of perfect how I did with what I had to work with. You know what I mean?
So I feel like that's why it's easier to pick people who need little, like me. I don't need a lot of food to carb up. I remember I just to carb up, I did 30 grams like of rice, not even carbs. It was 30 grams of rice, which is like a tablespoon of rice. And I was like, what's the point of even doing it? I'm like, might as well not.
Well, I ate a good amount on show day. Like I still had my 65 grams of oats in the morning with like 10 grams coconut oil. And then I had like 4 meals with 120 grams of rice. So it was like a lot. But yeah, it's just to keep the fullness there. But
you felt proud and like confident. And I feel like I saw that in you. Which most like obviously you get in your head as a competitor, but I think I saw this prep you come out I feel more empowered
for sure
by your own efforts, and also the fact that you won an overall, and then those things kind of keep you going, because then you're on a on a roll in a sense with how you feel about yourself. You're like,
Yeah.
well, that was a warm up. There's so much more I can do. So you just get back to drawing board and then just get
Well, and I
better.
think also it like lit a fire under my ass. And I've always said to myself, even with competing, like from when I first competed, I'm like, oh, I'm the youngster, I still have so many years I need to build and improve. And which is true. But also I feel like I always doubted myself because I'm young. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, all these girls are so much older than me. That means that they're better than me, which, you know what I mean? That was always in my head. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, but no, like I've put on a good amount of size and I feel like more confident with myself now.
Yeah.
And I always doubted myself before because of my age, which I don't know why I did that, but I feel like
Well,
this
it's
year,
just because they comes to the time where your muscle maturity, they say
yeah,
muscle maturity plays a huge role on how you place. And it is a fact, but
yeah,
it doesn't mean that you're any less or you're not gonna get there. You're just young. You
yeah.
Some people start younger, some people start later. And that's all it is, just getting out of your own head, because I feel like everyone does.
Well, I feel like the topic of competing kind of brings us into our topic of what we want to talk about today, and that's like eating habits and
Just relationship with food in
how,
general. Yeah.
yeah, because even as a competitor, it can be extremely tough. And for example, like me, I just did a show this weekend. It's Monday today, and post
What'd you
show.
have? What'd you have? Tell us.
So I had
I know
West
you
Coast
went to the Cheesecake
Confection.
Factory.
What Cheesecake Factory is so overrated. I don't know what the hype is. I did
Please,
not
someone tell Nick that,
enjoy
because
my meal. I did, but I didn't even get cheesecake because I was so full.
dude,
So
cheesecake's so heavy though.
yeah, so I was like, I'm not, and I wanted that cinnamon cheesecake so bad, but I was like, I literally do not care because I just had from West Coast Confection, I had those blondies and these cookies. Oh my God, it was the best thing I've ever tasted in my entire life.
Really?
Honestly, it was the best post-show treat ever. But yeah, I had a bite of like every flavor that I had, and I just had a bite of every single one. I'm like, okay, I'm satisfied. And then I went to dinner, and then I wanted like a green salad because even on prep, you
Fresh.
have like zucchini. You just want something fresh, you know?
And you're
So I'm like, okay.
dehydrated too, so
Yeah, but they didn't have the crispy rice that I wanted. They didn't have these chicken taco things I wanted. They didn't have so many things. They didn't have bread. They brought it like halfway through because they didn't have any. I'm like, what is this place?
you went on a bad day because they
Yeah.
usually have everything.
Well, Madison went there 2 hours. My twin sister went there 2 hours in advance and booked a reservation for us in person because it takes forever to get in there.
Mm,
But
yeah, you don't gotta
anyway,
tell me
so
that. I always gotta
yeah,
wait. Hate
but
it.
the thing with eating like post show is your mind is like, oh my God, I can finally eat. I want to eat everything. I want to try everything. You know what I mean? And so after I had those blondies, I was kind of getting a little full and I went up for dinner and I was like, okay, well, I want to have a meal. So I got a salad because I want something fresh because I just had those cookies. And then I had a chicken sandwich. So I'm not a huge burger person. And I didn't even really care to have the chicken sandwich. I was just like, oh, I guess I'm eating it because it's post show. So like I have to eat it. Like that's what was my mentality. And I wasn't even that hungry. So I ate like half of it and I'm like, okay, I'm done with it. And then we got back to the hotel. I didn't really have anything, whatever. I had one Twizzler and then I went to bed. And the next morning I had breakfast. Then after that, I went home and had one of those ice cream bars, the Biscoff ones that I love. Because Saturday and
I know
Sunday,
you
I just eat
posted
whatever
it.
I want.
It's like,
Yeah.
that looks
I just,
good.
oh, it was insane. I love that thing. And then I went home. Yeah. So I had the ice cream bar and then I made my ice cream creamy out of the protein powder because I love that, just with blueberries and like some almond butter.
Yeah.
And then I went for an hour and a half walk. And as I was walking, I wasn't even hungry. See, this is where you start to realize like, is this a problem or is it not? You know, this is kind of getting into our topic. So I walked by this sandwich place and I love this one sandwich place, like coffee culture, whatever. I love their sandwiches. And I was like, oh, I should pick up a sandwich. And I'm like, I'm not even hungry. Like, should I not? Will I be guilty? Like giving myself a guilt trip because I just had ate all that stuff the night before and then in the morning. So I'm like, oh, like, I don't know what to do. So I was like, maybe if I'm hungry later, I'll just get it. So I got it and I walked home. And then when I got home, I wasn't even hungry. I wasn't hungry at all. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll just try a bite of it. So I tried a bite of it and then I ended up eating the whole thing. Then I'm like, oh, I kind of feel sick. And I'm like, okay, whatever, just go to bed, whatever. Then on my table, there was half of that cookie left that I had from my show. I'm like, "Ah, you know what? Might as well just have that since there's like half of it left. Like, might as well just have it because tomorrow, like I'm starting fresh, blah, blah, blah. And then I ate it and I felt so sick and I didn't even want it. And I just had it because in my mindset, I'm like, I haven't had anything in so long, so I have to eat everything.
Yeah.
And so then I felt so sick. And always at night, I have daily cleanse and smooth move tea just to like help with digestion in the morning.
Hmm.
So I had my tea, and because of the water sitting in my stomach, I felt so sick. And normally post show, like my last show, I was not like this, where when I wasn't hungry, I didn't want to eat anymore. But for some reason, this post show, I was like, oh, well, I want to eat this. I want to try that. I want to try this. I want to try that. Then I felt I thought I was gonna throw up, like straight up. I was sitting in my bed and I'm like, I am going to puke. And then I felt guilty and disappointed in myself. And I was like, do I feel sick from the sugar or do I feel sick because I overate when I didn't need to? And like that
Or are
was the
you making
mentality.
yourself sick because you also make him you overthink what you ate and you actually make yourself sick?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I wasn't sick though, like I didn't throw up or anything, but I felt like I was going to. And that's like a problem right there is like sometimes people just don't know when to stop, you
Hmm.
know? And I feel like every single competitor or person experiences some type of way with like an eating disorder. And I know it can be a sensitive topic, but I feel like everybody experiences it in one way or another, whether you're aware of it or you're not aware of it.
Hmm.
Like that, like yesterday, and that was just yesterday. Like I didn't know if it was because like that was an eating disorder trait that I was doing, or if it was because of the sugar that just genuinely just made me feel sick.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I don't know.
I wouldn't label it as a like the eating
Eating
disorder
disorder.
behavior
Yeah.
yet, because I think you also have to, as someone who has been obviously restrictive for so long,
Mhm.
because you are restricting yourself from doing and eating things that normal eat, like healthy people eat, like fruit or something like that during prep.
Yeah.
So I think it's mostly like us giving ourselves the benefit of the doubt that your body natural response is going to be to survive. So it's going to want to eat whatever you want, like at whatever time of the day, because now it thinks it's just you're going to starve it again for so long that it needs to eat as much as you can while you can.
Yeah.
So I think that is the one thing in our brain that we shut off as soon as we step off stage, just because it's nothing stopping us now. So in our brain, we're like, okay, we're good to relax, but then it kind of just sends signals to your body that, okay, we can eat now. And
Yeah.
then you just get that dopamine release from like all these foods that you've been craving for so long, that your body's going to keep asking you to do that, right? Even
Exactly.
if you're
Yeah.
not hungry. And I think
Yeah.
that's where most people like don't know where to stop, because it
Mhm.
is kind of under your control, but it isn't at the same time. And I think that's where I have experienced like what you said, it's the guilt. And then you just
Yeah.
punish yourself, but then sometimes we're like, okay, F it. I already did one, like during breakfast, might as well finish the day and eat
Right.
everything I want,
Yeah.
everything I've been craving. But then that's the wrong mentality to have at that point, because your body's so sensitive that it will just blow up, quite literally, just like like retain so much water and all the sodium that you're consuming with all these processed foods, especially because no one really goes for like the food that we've been eating for so long that we digest
Yeah.
well. We go for the crap that we have been craving. So it's kind of like to be aware that this is going to happen and to know what is triggering it. For example,
Yeah.
what did we say we weren't going to do? Because I see so many people stockpile snacks on their show day bag, and then they have it
Yeah.
backstage. And he's like, okay, you're already setting yourself up. There's nothing wrong with eating a snack right after, especially a cookie, right after your step off stage is like the best feeling ever, because it's like sugar, right? Or even a fruit. But I feel like if you're already going that mentality of packing up your food with snacks, you are already telling yourself that you're going to eat until you're sick, basically.
Yeah.
And if you're completely stockpiling your house, your kitchen with things that you've been craving, you need to know that you will most likely go into that cupboard or whatever, your pantry, and you're going to start eating something, and then you're going to be okay, one more, and then the whole bag is gone, and then you feel a certain type of way. So I think the way that I managed it was knowing that these triggers will actually make me fall and kind of make me feel negative about myself. So I will steer away from stockpiling. Just
Yeah.
don't. And if you crave it, buy it. Don't buy family size. Buy a small portion. Because again, food's not going anywhere. And I think most people are like, the more I eat, the less I'll crave it. But I just think it's like completely the wrong mentality to go into it. And it will set you off for exactly feeling
Yeah.
like guilt.
Yeah, because it was weird because my last show, I didn't experience like when I was full, I didn't have anything else. And then the next day, I didn't really have any water retention because I was just like, oh, I just didn't really care. And then this show, I had the West Coast confection and I brought 3 flavors with me and I had like 2 bites of one and a bite of the other ones. And I
Mhm.
wanted to share with my family or whatever. But then like things in my cupboard, you've seen my cupboard before. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The cookies last year that I stored, I ended up giving them away. And the stuff in my cupboard, the only things that I stored was stuff from Trader Joe's, but I don't know why, but I have never like binged in my cupboard before.
Mhm.
Like I just keep it there and it always just goes away by people that come
Come
to my
over.
place.
Yeah.
And also, I find that because I'm back on track today and everything, I feel so much better. Like I'm just having my regular meals. And I actually genuinely wanted to eat those meals because I ate like shit the last 2 days. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm also because I'm like starting back up with my coach, I like hold myself accountable because when I'm with my coach, it's like I'm bang on. It's like I won't even touch the cupboard. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But yeah, I found that this prep though, I didn't store as much. You know what I mean? So it didn't make me want to crave more. Whereas like when
Yeah.
I would store everything, I would crave more because it would be right there, but not necessarily I would binge on it after. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, 100. It's because
Yeah.
you're not telling yourself, okay, I'm buying all these things that I'm going to eventually eat once my show is done.
Yeah.
I think that it's literally that energy that you're putting out there. It's literally you knowing that you're going to turn into like an unstoppable eating machine after.
Yeah.
If you're stockpiling that much, that's why I personally like there are so many ways to cope with this. And some people may think it's crazy, some people might think it's not. Like you having this cabinet just full of freaking treats. And not a lot of people can do that because
Yeah.
again, we all have different triggers, we all have different ways to go about things and
Like I feel
whatever
like it
works for
makes me
you.
feel better about myself when I have that in there because I'm like, "Ah, love that." And then people come over, I'm like, yeah, eat it. You know what I
And then
mean? Like,
you have no issue with people eating it in front of you. And that's
no.
one thing I enjoy. It's like if my partner can eat, for example, what I crave, I actually enjoy more them like
Like
eating
I
it.
like baking stuff for people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's how sometimes I cope with stuff like on prep. But also I want to point out there's no such thing as a good food and a bad food. I honestly do not think that because
Yeah.
it's just the bad foods is everything in moderation, you know? Chips aren't
Hmm.
bad, a burger isn't bad. If you overindulge, it's considered as bad or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not bad to have any of that we're talking about. It's just when it becomes like obsessive,
Yeah.
we are aware that we have been through that for sure. And
Too much of anything, even the considered labeled like healthy food can be too
yeah,
much.
yeah,
Like you can go into iron toxicity or who knows, like all these nutrients can actually become toxic to your body. But it's just like I think it's the labeling of like fast food and it's just become such an stigma and cause people to feel a certain way about food. Even me, like yesterday, Nick and I were supposed to have a date night because he gets like one free meal. I hate to call him cheat meals too, because it's
I
not you're
know.
not cheating yourself. You are
Yeah,
just enjoying life and having a little balance. Um, and then we didn't go because he's like, I don't think I need it. I think I'm going to skip it this week. So I was like, well, I feel for some McDonald's fries. And then he's like, okay, well, let's go to McDonald's. So we are in the drive thru and he's like, you're not just going to get fries, right? And I was like, yeah, I'm just craving fries. And he's like, you should get a burger, just a cheeseburger. And I haven't had a cheeseburger from McDonald's in like over a year or so more.
mhm,
So I go like, I was like kind of nervous because I didn't know what to order because I don't know what I like from McDonald's besides the fries. So I was just like, hey, can you just give me a cheese and bacon quarter pounder or whatever it's called? And he's like, oh, I just said cheeseburger. You went all out. So then I got it and then I ate it. Today I actually dropped weight because I'm like, well, this is going to mess me up and mess up my digestion because we're already labeling that as bad food, which is
Yeah.
not the best option if doesn't digest well. You could find something that digests better, like a burger, like from Five Guys or something. But I just ate it. I enjoyed it. I sat down and he's like, just enjoy it. They're good. There's nothing wrong with you eating a burger and fries.
Yeah.
And I actually enjoyed it. I felt good after. And then next day, I was already thinking about my weight going up because
Yeah.
of the sodium, the processed food. And then it was fine. I actually dropped.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we overthink, especially when
Yeah.
we're in this industry, so hyper focused on the calories, what's in it, and just what's going to do to us the next day when we should just enjoy the moment. I just feel like I was caught up on what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. And I feel like I never had any thoughts about eating until I started competing. It was so weird. I never understood why people experienced it when I was younger, because up to when I was in university, when I started competing for my first show, I never thought about anything that I ate ever. I didn't know what was healthy, what was unhealthy. I just ate whatever I wanted. I stayed the same weight. I didn't have any body dysmorphia. Like, it was super weird. Like, I didn't experience any of that until I started
Mm-hmm.
competing and then seeing my body change so much, on a daily basis. But now I understand it. And that's also nice about both of us being coaches, because when we take people on, like lifestyle clients, when they come to us with any issues, I feel like we have been through everything and we understand people and can relate to one another. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I can talk to my clients so easily about it. And I'm like, I'm an open book,
Yeah,
and
if
I
there's
feel like,
someone who can relate to you, will be your coach, and we will probably be the ones telling you the best ways to cope with things. Obviously, we're not medical like professionals to like
Mhm.
prescribe certain things, but we can definitely relate on the lifestyle basic things about things. But
But with ourselves, we are so hard on ourselves and we don't even
we
listen to
are
ourselves, what we say. We give
no,
advice and then we do the opposite of what advice we're given.
like
I
practice
think.
what you preach, girl,
Yeah.
but we don't.
And I feel like I've also learned so much through my clients, because we're always learning and growing and with our clients too, and I feel like from the beginning, looking at, some of the meal plans I was giving and all that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm way more flexible now because I've
Mm-hmm.
just learned so much and what someone needs and more of a lifestyle plan.
Yeah.
If you add little things in, if you add small things in throughout your week, you're not going to want to binge. You're not going to want to wait for that cheat meal or free meal that you get at the end of the week.
Yeah.
If you, use the 80-20 rule or whatever you, you know,
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's okay, like as coaches, okay, as lifestyle coach, I give you a plan. The plan is based on the foods that you enjoy. And that will include obviously things that like fruit and all these things that will kind of keep your body satisfied in a way that it won't cause cravings. And if I have someone who really has a hard time sticking to like a basic diet with foods that um I, I will add like things like dark chocolate or Greek
same.
yogurt and things, and also halo top ice cream, things
Yeah.
like that can really keep someone from like, okay, I've had this much and then I'm okay. I've had ice cream, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But there are ways to go around it, because I feel when people put a label to a nutrition meal plan, you call it a diet plan. I feel like you're already telling yourself, okay, this is supposed to make me feel restricted and I'm going to suffer following this. When in reality, it should be like, I'm nourishing my body, I'm consuming just enough to meet my goals. And again, if you have a goal in mind, it's going to make you want to follow and feel good about yourself. So when we say bad and good foods, it's just that perception that we have on those foods and how much we eat of it. Because again, calories in, calories out, it's the facts. Like some
Yeah.
people believe in it, some people don't. But if you overconsume what you need, it's just going to create weight gain. And then obviously the bad labeling comes with like things like chronic conditions that can cause like diabetes or heart conditions because of saturated fats. Again, it is about how much, how often, and basically how often and how much you eat of it. That's what's going to make it bad. But
well, I feel like online too now on Instagram and Reels and everything, people have so many great recipes that like all the reels that I watch of people making all these different things and
you
like
can
low
get really
calorie type of stuff.
creative,
Yeah, I know.
really
And sometimes I
creative.
don't put those creative meals on my clients' plans because one, they take way too long. And but I'm like, if you have a recipe that you're interested in having, like I'll look it over and put it on your plan.
Yeah.
But there is also so many things online. This is my number one that I absolutely hate. When people put online, you know, those protein balls,
Yeah.
the protein balls, and all they add in it, they add 1 tablespoon of protein powder and it's all fats. It's all
Oh, like
fats.
almond
Like
butter,
I
peanut
call them
butter.
like they're fat bombs. They're not protein balls, you know, and they're like, oh, if you want to increase your protein, eat 10 of these a day. And it's like, okay, but you're also consuming, like some people don't understand what else is in them. Or for example, on certain packages that you buy in the grocery store, my clients will send me them and I'm like, because on the label it'll say gluten-free, keto, dairy-free, non-GMO or whatever, you know, have all these labels
No
because so
sugar added.
everyone's, yeah, so everyone's like, oh my God, these are so healthy, you know, and when really you look at the ingredients and they're not at all, you
Mm-mm.
know, and so there's so many different ads online that make people want to buy their product and people are really good at it when
Yeah.
it doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
what the ingredients are
When
and
it
who
comes to calories, again,
yeah.
it's just like when you are following, because this is the part where we want to, there's nothing bad about those things, like the protein and the fat bombs that you call them, or
Mhm.
balls. It's just
No, you
how
have
much,
to
if
have
you
fats
have, yeah,
in your
it depends
diet. You
on,
have to. But I'm just saying when people are trying to make healthier choices and people are advertising these things and they think
mhm.
that if they eat all of those things, they're going to achieve their goals. It might
Yeah.
not actually be, you know,
No, it's
realistic.
just very misleading. It's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of misinformation, I would say, or the way
Yes.
that it can be um, perceived can be the wrong way. Because not everyone knows like how many calories are in a gram of fat and how many calories are in a gram of protein. Like
Mm.
calories have nine, and then um, proteins have 4, right? So when you have a protein ball and you add a bunch of, let's say the ratios are 50-50, you're going to make a calorie dense ball because now you're adding 50, like 1-to-1 ratio of fats and protein. So protein is
Yeah.
going to take over in that case if you're focusing on calories.
Yeah.
But
There's nothing
again,
wrong with that. I'm
no.
just saying the misperceptions of
Also,
nutrition
people need to
online.
stop thinking that peanut butter is a protein source, because
That's what I'm saying. And or seeds. It's
like
not. It's not.
some seeds are higher in
Okay,
protein, but
yes.
they're like higher in fats, obviously.
Yeah.
But then there should be a disclaimer
Or that
about,
chickpeas are protein.
yeah,
That one
there
is,
is tons of fiber on that one.
yeah.
It is a good, if you are a vegan, it is a good source
Yes.
of how to get your protein source. But then you have things like edamame. Edamame are so high in protein. Like, but then there's also like the fiber amount. And
Yeah.
again, we can talk about so many freaking foods.
Mhm.
Some are so like idolized, romanticized, and then there is like all the demonized foods. Like,
Well, what I was kind of saying about that is people are trying to say, oh, healthier, this is almond flour. There's nothing, everyone thinks that almond flour is so much better for you than oat flour. Do you know what I'm
mhm,
saying? And like people go against oat flour because it has so many more carbs in it, but carbs are not the enemy. That's what I was trying to get to at this
yeah,
point. Because people
demonizing
are,
macros.
yeah, so people are saying, oh, these are healthier or whatever, but it's not necessarily healthier, you know, like
No,
that's just what I
they're
was
both
meaning to say.
healthy. They're
Yeah,
just both different sources of macros, like
yeah,
fat heavy, carb heavy.
yeah,
Both play a role. Both are needed in your diet.
yes,
Neither is healthier. If one bloats you, the oats definitely not for you, but it doesn't make it bad. And
yes,
that's the part where everyone goes. And if you, and again, the gluten-free thing, some people are not celiac. Celiac is an actual condition where you can't consume wheat, right? Because it causes inflammation in your intestines. But now everyone's going towards the gluten-free is the thing to do now. And they're like, well, for some people it digests better, for some people it doesn't. Some people are think that going the gluten-free route makes something healthy. And I think that is like such a misconception, because if you don't have the condition, or you don't have certain intolerances to, let's say, like wheat or other things that are not in gluten-free products, then that makes you spend the extra money, and then you think you can eat more of it or more often of it because it's gluten-free. So it's just, again, the marketing of things has become so good at just getting through people's eyes, and then you think, okay, this is better, but then this is not better. So where do you draw the line? Where do we call out all these companies? And also, nutrition fact tables are not very like regulated. You can actually have misleading nutrition facts.
Oh, yeah.
And you also have to focus on the serving size, because if the serving size is 1 tablespoon and then it says like 200 calories per tablespoon, then obviously you're gonna kind of put, like, because people focus on so much on the grams of the actual fats, macros, but then you don't look at things like fiber, added sugars. And I feel like that people are trying to create these, well, companies are trying to create these nutrition facts just so these values look low. But then you also have to realize how much of the serving size is actually giving you those numbers.
Yes. Yeah.
Because otherwise, everything has calories, even the 0-calorie stuff.
Yeah.
It's just how they do the calculations per serving size. Because I'm working on something right now, and I'm creating the nutritional fact tables. And that's exactly it. The serving size is like 1 tablespoon. And obviously, because some ingredients have like a certain ratio in a big batch, because you're doing a tablespoon of a big container is going to literally be insignificant, that the calculator of the nutritional fact thing gives you 0, but it still has calories.
Right.
For example, onion powder, you think those are calorie free? It has like,
that's like orange Tic Tacs. There's a thing about that because it says per
yeah,
2 have no sugar, but per 3 have 1 gram of sugar.
yeah, because as you increase the serving size, obviously, per the big bulk that you make is actually going to actually cause a significant the amount to increase, but because it's so minimal to the big batch that you have, it literally decreases it to 0. So, which is very misleading in a sense, but it works in terms of people looking for low calorie options, which is exactly what I'm like, where I'm trying to achieve low calories, but something that digests well, because low calories can have like all these added artificial sugars.
Right.
So I know I have a big problem with that stuff. So I can only consume like stevia, but I think it's like the Nature's stevia or something like that. It's like a
The one from
specific brand.
Starbucks. The
Yeah.
Starbucks one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one doesn't do anything to me.
Yeah.
So
what would, like, for eating disorders, I feel like the first thing is that you have to be aware of it, because some people aren't aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think the first step is to get
help?
Yeah. Sorry, you paused there or something.
Oh, no, because your question was, what do you think is the first thing to do?
Like, what's the first step? Like, when you feel like you need help and you don't know exactly what to do, what is the first thing that you recommend?
Okay. I want to disclaim this, and this is something I see, and there may be people who feel comfortable, but as a coach myself, if I have someone coming to me with eating disorders, I personally don't feel comfortable proceeding to take them on, because I think this takes way beyond my scope, and it takes like different tests that you need to run in terms to see what that person needs the most to create a nutrition plan based on that. So when someone is struggling with eating disorders, and now these can be really extreme, like anorexia, bulimia, or it can be something as you creating these eating disorder patterns, but you have not got to the physical kind of repercussions of having an eating disorder. Like, as competitors, we have, in my opinion, I want to say this is not like factual, but I want to say we have eating disorder patterns, which,
Habits, yes.
yes, like we have the patterns that maybe if we don't have them under control will take us to develop an actual eating disorder. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying all competitors have eating disorders.
Yeah, no.
That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying we have these patterns that, if not under control, can actually end up badly, right?
Yeah, it can escalate if you aren't aware of it.
And it has to be taken serious, because when you are messing as a woman, obviously your hormones rely on a certain amount of body fat percentage for you to be considered like hormonally healthy. And this is going to shape your behavior, the way your body looks, the way your body uses food, the way your moods, everything. Literally, your hormones make you who you are. And that's what I believe in. I'll stick to that statement. But I think the first step obviously is becoming aware. But are you speaking of what to do when you actually have the condition, or when you catch yourself with those patterns?
Sorry, I meant more in the sense where you catch yourself, because what I said was very a touchy topic. I
Yes.
feel like you could
So
put in any
it's like,
direction, but more so like habits of you restricting yourself or like things like that,
yeah.
Because I'm asking you because I feel like you're in such a good spot with your eating habits
Mm-hmm.
and you found that balance. And I
Yes.
feel like, sorry, my question more so is how to find a balance and how were you able to cope with it? And how did you better your relationship with food
With
from
food.
coming on prep to off of prep?
Okay. So obviously it was stages of developing this relationship with food again. Um, Also, this was very subjective to my case because of how extreme my prep diet went, which was these 3 weeks of protein only, like no vegetables, no nothing. It was just 5 ounces of fish or chicken 5 times a day. So that was very extreme for me. So coming out of that to being able to eat a broader spectrum of things was really hard. And I knew in my head, based on previous post-show experience that I had, where I had no control. I had binging episodes where I would just eat until I was sick. And most people don't talk about this because you feel
Mhm.
ashamed that you did it, because you feel like ashamed that you have no control over your thoughts, your instincts, or cravings in general. And people will say whatever. They can comment on your weight, they can comment on a lot of things. They don't know what's going on with you. So coming out of that prep, I knew that I needed to be careful with what I was eating. So I enjoyed myself. I gained 12 pounds. I did not want to eat anything that was going to trigger my body to blow up even more. So I started consuming more whole foods. And even though it was a very frustrating time in my life, because my hormones were completely at a point where they was just like not doing, like there was nothing that could be done about that at that point. I just needed to give my body time.
Yeah,
I
you just have to
knew that
wait.
I was eating the same foods I was eating during prep,
Yeah, I
but
remember
more of
that.
it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, rice, I will add greens to it. I will just try to be more conscious about the micronutrients of it to get more vitamins, more minerals, because that is something I was lacking during prep. So I focused on that. And I also focused on having a little flexibility. For example, I will buy dark chocolate, or I will buy fermented yogurt and add some fruit and some honey to it. So it was more so knowing what would digest well with me. And then I was just trying to nourish my body. Now, this was creating also a restrictive, in a sense, behavior with the other foods. For example, like fast food, or if we were out to eat, I wanted to have fries. And I was just scared of food because I didn't know what it was going to do to me at that point, because my body weight was just up, 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 no matter what I was doing. And I just wanted to punish myself with more cardio because that's all I knew. But that was going nowhere. So I just needed to uh, kind of become aware of the fact that I had so much body dysmorphia. There were days where I just hated myself, hated the way everything looked, but I I don't know if you remember. And like, this was when some people started making comments about me gaining weight.
No, yeah, I remember.
I
So
tried to not hide because I
yeah,
was like, this is so bad, but I'm not going to hide because I need to face it. This is just what's happening. And I cannot hide from the world, and I cannot just deny myself that this is happening, because it
yeah,
is in fact happening.
yeah, you can't just bury yourself and be hard on yourself about it, you know?
Exactly.
I remember that time, and you were just eating whole foods and your hormones were way out of balance. And but I remember you thought it was so much worse than it actually was. Like, yes, you gained weight, but I never looked at you being like, oh my God. You know what
I
I
know,
mean? Because
but
we
you remember
all
how
come down
lean
on
I
ourselves
was?
the most. Yes. And also like my face fills out. Like even today, I feel like I'm a little bit more full.
Yeah, you look
Yeah.
way fuller. And because
I think the headphones do a little bit too.
Nick was watching last week's episode. He's like, I feel like Brit's headphones are as like bigger than her face. And I was like, it's because we're prep. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
have the same brand, and it's like just the
But I feel
shape
like
of her
these headphones
face,
make my
but it's
face look
fuller.
chubby.
It's
Yeah,
fuller.
I
Yeah.
know. I'm
I
up,
like,
I'm
you
up,
look more alive today.
I know I'm up 3 pounds today. Just a water
Yeah.
retention, whatever, it'll go down.
Well, you don't have to clarify that. You can't gain fat that fast.
I know.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously my first thing was being aware of the fact that I had body dysmorphia, and I couldn't let it get out of hand by hiding, because one, hiding was just going to make me feel even worse about myself, even though I heard comments about my weight gain, because I feel like people's opinions are sometimes, they get to through us more than how you really should feel about yourself. Or even those people that care about you, they can give you a compliment, but you don't believe it because you feel like they're just trying to be nice to you. But then you let those negative opinions actually weigh more than those that are good. So you will tell me like, you look fine, like you look
Mhm.
healthy, like you look fuller.
Yeah,
And
that's what I thought. I never looked at you and I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? But we're just all
yeah,
so hard on ourselves. And that was the time that you had moved out of your
yeah,
place and you were by yourself all the time too. So
yeah.
keep that in mind as well. So you were constantly by yourself. Like, I find that when you're always by yourself, I'm always checking myself in the mirror every morning before I go to bed, and
Hmm.
just seeing like post show how I'm responding to everything.
There was more time to just pay attention to myself. So,
Yeah.
and then obviously this will be like probably a topic for a different episode, but um when anti-estrogens are used, especially at the degree that like that they were used at that prep, like you need to be careful how you win off of them. Okay, so that was a big factor why I rebounded so hard, was because I got them cold turkey to completely like stop them. And that's the worst mistake to make,
Yeah.
because you're like doing this like um what do you call it, substance, not freaking, you're doing this for so long. You
Yeah.
can't just cut it cold turkey. Okay,
No.
so my hormones were like, what is happening? We're going to blow up. And then your mental health, because estrogen just plays such a huge factor in general, your hormones with your mental health. So I was in a spot where, again, and this is going to be really triggering, guys, warning. I was struggling in a personal level, and in a lot of other areas of my life. And then obviously the body dysmorphia was not helping me. The fact that my body was kind of punishing me in a way was really getting to me. And I got so depressive that I wanted to just not be in this world anymore. And this is something that needs to be so, I feel like it needs to be said more, because they're taken lightly. I think when you take anti-estrogens, you need to remember these things are going to really impact your mental health. And they're going to, if you don't cut them properly, you don't wean off properly, they can actually drive you into a depressive state where you are already struggling with body image. You don't need to, any life stressors are happening. God forbid something bad is happening. It's just going to drive you deeper into something that you don't, dark place that you don't want to be in.
That's weird.
So,
Two people told me that today about estrogen blockers today at the gym. People
yeah,
said two people came up to me and were asking me about them, and I was like, oh, and that's how like they felt off of it. And I've never
It's a big,
experienced that, but I know
it's
everyone's different, you know.
it's messed up because it depends how long you use it, how much you use it, and how many of them you use,
Mhm.
right? So this is why you, as a coach, if you're listening to this, you need to be responsible about this use, or make your client aware that these things are going to happen, or do your research. As a client, I felt to do my own research of what needed to be done and how it was going to impact me afterwards. But again, I learned the hard way. And just again, going back to how to catch yourself and be aware of these patterns was facing them head on. And this was me doing things that
Out
I
of your
wanted to
comfort
hide.
zone. So
Yeah.
you're coming out of your comfort zone and you became more comfortable with yourself by doing those
I
things.
did not want to keep feeding into the monster that was like kind of trying to create that negative feel about me. So again, I was gaining weight, body dysmorphia. What did I do? I tried to stay out there. I didn't want to hide because that was my reality, and I needed it to just be there because I needed to face it right on. And obviously, then I became a little more open to the fact that I did not get like that. Um, Obviously, to get show ready, it took me weeks to get there. Okay. So it took me months to get shredded. It was going to take me months to heal again. So I just was like, okay, in 8 weeks, I'll be fine. No, it was 8 months, more like it. So I think people need to remember, and this is why I think taking the necessary off season is so important, because you take so much time to prep. 6 months, let's say. If you do 20, 24 weeks, if you want to start like gradual, you need as many weeks to recover, if not more, depending on how extreme you had to go, because some people had to go a little more extreme to hit that conditioning or whatever. Um, don't expect to get there in 2 weeks or 2 months, because it's unrealistic, and it's just going to make you realize and feel shitty about yourself and develop patterns towards yourself that you don't need. Now, I'm not saying go eat everything you want and it's going to go away in a couple months. No, you need to do the due diligences, which is be aware. And I knew being aware of those patterns too was me not having the foods at home, because I knew I was going to be hungry, and having my pantry full of things that I know I would eat. I just refrained from buying them. And that was not a restrictive thing. It was a self-love kind of act that I saw it as, because perception is everything. If you tell yourself, I'm not buying the bag of chips because I know I'm going to finish it, and I know at this point my body's sensitive, it's just going to make me feel, not only feel worse, but it's not going to do your body any good. And mentally, it's just not going to put you in a good place. I was seeing it as, I respect my body right now because I put it through so much stress. I need to do this for me, my body, and my mental health. So that's what I kind of kept telling myself. And I just saw it as a way to, again, show myself self-love, because I had given myself, just stretched myself so thin during that prep. And I remember in every area of my life, I was giving, that it was time to like completely take back control over who I was. And then obviously the patterns of self-guilt in food relationships started to trigger. And again, you needed to change the perception of, I'm doing this as self-love because I need to take care of myself, because I need to heal myself again, rather than I'm punishing myself. That's why I'm not buying that bag of chips. I'm punishing myself. That's why I'm going to do X amount of cardio to get back and lose 2 pounds, you know? So I think it's changing your perception. I think that's the way I'm going to say address all these patterns that might take you to an eating disorder, because it awareness is the best thing that you can have right after post show, especially when you hit those like the post show blues where everything was such a high, and now you're by yourself, and now you're like, okay, there's no show, especially show day, such a high adrenaline, everyone's there cheering you on, and then everything just goes back to normal after. So I think being aware and seeing it as something of self-love, not something that's like you have to go back to on a diet because it's restrictive.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's just giving yourself the time to heal after doing such a hard thing that was to get to the show day, you know?
Well, and I find too, like there was nothing wrong. Like my last off season, I found myself even if my coach would allow me, oh, you get like one free meal a week or whatever, I
Mhm.
needed to completely not have someone tell me that and do it myself. Because I
Mhm.
got to a point where I already knew how to do an off season. I knew how to prepare myself. And I did a few months off season with someone, helping me. But
Mhm.
then it got to a point where it would stress me out because someone was telling me what to do, which made me feel restricted. There's nothing wrong with my coach or anything. It was just me being like, I have to check in tomorrow. I'm not going to have that much stevia today because it makes me a bit bloated. So like during my check-in, I don't want to look bloated. So I'm not going to have it today. Those little things were like adding up. And the stress about me checking in, that was more something that I had to work on.
Mhm. I
And even
remember.
if, yeah, even
You
if
will
you
freak
said,
out. You'll be like,
oh yeah, even if you said, oh yeah, have a cheat this week, I would be like, oh my God, what am I going to have? Like, can I check in the next day? Am I going to be bloated? And then he sees me. So I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do off season by myself right now. And I still continue to do the same thing that I was doing. But I
mhm.
actually, and then I started having a cheat meal a week or a free meal a week when I wasn't doing that before. And I actually started losing weight because I wasn't stressed out anymore because I
Mhm.
was so in my head about what he was telling me to do. But also as a coach, that's what you do. You know what I
You
mean? Like
follow.
there's
Yeah.
nothing that he did wrong. It was more
No.
me where I needed to just have that freedom by myself. And it ended up working, And then when I
Yeah.
was ready, I went back with him. I just needed to work on myself with my eating habits because I got to the point where I was still like weighing out my lettuce, like, and, things like that. And right
Have a
now,
picture.
obviously I'm so hard on myself right now because I'm prepping or
Yeah.
whatever, but, and
I
like
know.
reversing right now. But, I also sometimes when I see myself during prep being obsessive, like you said, I'm aware of it and I
Mhm.
see those habits and I know how I dealt with them last time. So I prepare myself for post show just to, and you know me, I'm all about like, oh, I need like volume because I love just like the volume of things, And so I've
Mhm.
started to like decrease my volume. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll have like 10 rice cakes instead of like this much rice because I want to just eat like a high volume meal. But now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, you don't need to eat the biggest portion ever with the lowest calories. You can just
Mhm.
have rice and be satisfied after, you
Yeah.
know?
And I
So
think I think there's where obviously we have a lot of emotional um kind of eating drives. I don't know if that makes sense, but like we eat out of emotion to comfort ourselves in
mhm,
a sense. And that could be on a high stress like situations. And this doesn't apply to just competitors. I feel like this applies to everyone, lifestyle, competitor, whatever, just because of the dopamine release. And again, you just said like you wanted like a big meal because you wanted like to know that you were eating a lot
like
because you
eating this big
and
portion,
and then that was your response to actually feeling like that dopamine release because you're like, okay, well, I have this big meal. I'm gonna be full after this. So, and then also that comes with people saying, well, I ate this because I just was stressed and it's fine. I'm not shaming anyone because I've done it myself. I feel like I find comfort in food, but I feel like more people need to actually pay attention to the root of the problem of what's stressing you and then find ways to cope with other
Mhm.
things that are not going to stress you even more. Because I feel like some people go into, especially some lifestyle clients, they come to me with like a lot of bad habits. We're trying to build them week by week. But then obviously there is the day where I was stressed, I ate this, and then because I ate this once, I just kept on going. And then now you're more stressed because not only you feel like you let yourself down, you think you're letting your coach down, but by no means we feel let down. We more so feel concerned that that is a behavior where you are shaming yourself for the things that you're doing because you're stressed, when you should be looking for the root of the problem of what's stressing you and find ways to cope with it that are going to make you feel better about yourself, not worse about yourself. And there's where food fast food usually comes into play, because it's just you feel better while you eat it, but then that's it. And that ends there.
When I'm stressed, I can't eat anything. I
See,
can't.
like, it's funny because like people just work so different. And I think it's so cool that we all have totally different things in our minds, and our drives, triggers, everything is so different. And that's what makes us like unique.
Yeah.
And in a sense, it makes us work together, and like we can share a world together. But okay, well, that's getting
Yeah.
too deep, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, stressed, sad. Do not give me anything to eat. I am like,
Really?
I feel sick. Yeah.
I
Like,
feel
when
well,
I'm stressed, nervous, it's like, I can't
no.
even eat anything. It's weird, or sad. It's weird. I just like become very just like numb, and I'm like, don't, yeah,
Yeah, but like,
weird.
but that's, but do you agree? Like, it's going back to
Oh,
like, how
so
do you catch yourself? Like the awareness. Awareness is the main thing, right?
yeah.
To catching yourself to those patterns.
Yeah, I sometimes catch myself after the fact, but at least I am aware of it. And sometimes I question, I almost don't want to believe that I'm doing something wrong, Like yesterday when I was eating, I know it's kind of a different situation because my body just genuinely wasn't used to eating those things, you know what I mean? But even in my off season when I would, oh, okay, Britt, you can have an off meal. I'd be like, okay. And then I would think about it the whole day and think about what I was going to have, you know what I mean? And like, then I started to notice, why am I looking up every single restaurant, looking at the calorie count? That was a habit that I was building up. And that's when I realized, because someone was telling me what to do on a lifestyle plan, it was making me develop these habits, and I was aware of it. So to resolve it, that's why I was like, I need to do this on my own. And then what I started doing was, when I wanted something, I would have it. And then when I would eat something and I was satisfied, I didn't care about it anymore, because in my mind, I was like, if I want to have that cookie, I can have it. And someone's not telling me what to do. Do you know what I mean? That's it with my clients. I understand when people are like, I might feel a bit restricted. I'm like, okay, let's include these things in your plan. Here's some different options you can have. So you can have this meal, and I'll give you all these different alternatives meals that you can have as well. So you have more variation. Let me add some chocolate chips to your oatmeal. Let me add some chocolate chip rice cakes. You can have sugar-free Jello if you want. Like, just little things like that. Keep them more content, where they don't feel like they need to come off plan because they're not craving as much all the time. So that's what I did with myself. Like with my macros, I would choose cleaner carb source or whatever food sources. But let's say for my oatmeal, I would add chocolate chips or like a lint ball, remember that?
Your lint
I
ball
would,
was like the
yeah,
must
the
have during
thing.
breakfast.
Yeah, I know. So I would
But
have
it's things
that,
that work.
but it literally made
It
me
kept you sane.
not want anything
Yeah.
anymore. Those, just adding those little things, and not someone telling me you can only have this meal or you can only have this many calories. So I'm looking it up and I'm becoming obsessed with it. Like with my clients now, I never say cheat meal. I say, oh, you can have a free meal if you'd like this
That's
week,
what I
because when I
free
say
meal.
cheat meal or when I say diet plan, it like,
I
I feel
always
like that
say
triggers
nutrition
someone.
plan or
Yeah.
meal
Or
plan,
meal plan. Yeah.
because
I
I
cut
don't
that out
like
now.
diet.
And on my questionnaire, I changed to my new clients, did you cheat on your diet? I now changed it to, did you have
Did you?
anything off plan?
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's triggering,
Perception, and
Yeah.
how you take that into context
Yeah.
has a
It's like,
lot to
because if
do
someone reads that,
to
it's
how
like, oh
you
my God, did
feel.
I cheat on my diet? Oh my God, I
Yeah.
cheated. I'm a failure. Whereas like, oh, did you have anything off plan? Oh yeah. Like I had this
Like a glass
happened.
of wine or
Yeah.
something.
Or whatever.
So
Yeah.
trivial. So
Yeah. And I
trivial.
let my clients have glasses of wine too. I'm just like,
Oh,
yeah, just maybe choose like this one
yeah,
or
your
that one.
lifestyle. You're not a freaking
Yeah.
extreme competitor.
You
So
can make
I
so
feel like
much
some people,
progress
some people just try
on,
to live the competitor life. And I think that's the way to get to your goals. No.
well, people always ask me, okay, what do you eat? And I'm like, oh, chicken, rice, oatmeal. And like,
Basics.
oh, so like what, how much do you have in every meal? And it's like, everybody's different. You know what I mean? And also if you restrict that much, then you're going to come to the problems
Create.
that create problems for yourself,
Yeah.
or people say, oh, like on the weekend, I had this cookie. It's like, okay, what's wrong with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like you
You just
ate
think it's
like
bad.
shit all week, you know?
No.
So I always say, like, if you're good throughout the week and then have the odd thing here and there and then have something on the weekend, like that's not bad, you know?
Follow
There's no
80
such thing as
20
bad. Yeah, the
lifestyle.
80-20 rule. Like,
Yeah.
and also if you're eating like by the 80-20 rule and you're including that, you're not gonna want to have anything else. Like you're
Mm-mm.
gonna genuinely feel so much better by eating whole foods. Like
Mm-hmm.
honestly, like the last couple of days I felt my body just felt like shit. At the gym today, I sweat so much. I went twice because in the morning, not twice to work out, but in the morning I did one exercise and I was talking about like my plans for my off season with my coach or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, I have to go train someone now. So I'll just go train later. So I came back, sweat so much. My coach is like, you look like so much tighter because I was sweating so much and I felt like shit all day because I
Yeah.
ate so much and I actually felt like shit. Like I didn't,
But you were
but
inflamed. So
yeah, but
that feeling is
I
not,
just
it's not fun.
feel, yeah, not even like feel shitty about like what I look like. It was more like
Sluggish,
I feel sluggish. Yeah. Whereas
yeah,
Whole Foods actually make you feel better. And so they're going to make you feel better
energetic,
about yourself too. And it's
light.
going to show,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know exactly what you mean. But again, don't try to overcomplicate it. That's why we just do basic chicken rice.
yeah.
And people think we just, I mean, I say like, I think it keeps your budget in check because
Mhm.
the less you buy, the and then you stick to the same foods, you know you're gonna consume at all. So nothing's gonna go bad in your fridge.
Mhm.
Two, you don't overthink what to make next. You can make your foods fun with seasoning, the way you cook it. You can air fry it, you can bake it,
Yeah.
or you can
Or the
pan
stir
fry
fry
it.
mix. I always just throw the stir fry mix in with my
There's
chicken
so
and rice
much,
and with different flavors and
it
like
can be fun. You
sauces.
can add the
Yeah, it is.
sauces.
Yeah.
So I feel like people think it's like boiled chicken and then broccoli, and it's like not it doesn't have to be like that. You can make
Yeah.
an oatmeal look like a dessert,
Yeah.
literally nowadays. So you just have to get creative and stop thinking that looking good, looking healthy has to be restrictive or just in general. I feel like
Mhm.
there's so much focus on the body that we forget about here.
Yeah, 'cause
But I always
if
say
here is not good,
your
it's
body will not follow. I
no.
always say if you have a strong mentality, your body will follow because you
Yes.
are unstoppable and that your mind is so powerful. And I
Yeah, even in my off season, I look back at photos. I remember when I felt so confident with myself. And that was me like 15 pounds up from how I am now. And today I'm looking at myself, I'm like, oh, I'm bloated from yesterday, And it's like, because I felt so great. I was eating lots, I was having whole foods. I was, and I
yeah,
felt so good about myself because I was, and I was a little bit thicker because I like being like a little bit thicker, and
yeah,
I just felt so good about myself. I was so much energy and just looking at myself then, I'm looking at those photos and I'm just like, oh my God, you're so much thicker. But in that moment, I felt good about myself.
yeah.
So it's just weird how your mind can play so many games on you based
Oh
on,
yeah. You just need to know and be conscious that there are different phases to this process and not every time you're gonna look the same. And you have
Mhm,
to be okay with every single thing. You have to be patient with your body, with yourself.
mhm.
Because I feel like we all want so like what is Nick doing? He's breaking plates, I think. Um, we are looking for such instant gratification that we just forget that you didn't get there overnight. Don't expect to get to where you want to be overnight either. Like it'll take hard work, consistency, patience, and just like be smart about things. Like I don't
Yeah.
know what else, how else I can say that, but yeah, yeah. Well, that was an awkward moment of silence.
Yeah.
um but obviously like overall relationships with food, like we just want to sum this up and probably wrap it up here.
Mhm.
um Relationships with food are again awareness, perception, and how much, how often of something you eat. There's good and bad in everything, but I feel like when you start to demonize certain foods, I feel like that's where people start to develop that pattern of I should stay away from that
And
completely.
restricting
Yes.
honestly can lead into so many problems oh, I'm going to cut out carbs. No, you need
Hmm.
carbs in order to survive. And also when people say, I'm
And
going to
build
not,
muscle. Like
yeah,
you want to build
exactly.
muscle, eat, girl.
Yeah. Well, and also when people cut out the whole morning or into their afternoon, this is another thing that I see that's very common. People don't eat until nighttime, and then they're wondering why they're so hungry, and they end up eating everything. Is because you're not giving your body what it needs from the start of the day. So then your body goes into starvation mode at night, and it's like, okay, I have nothing I have no energy, I have no food in me. So you crave so much, and you end up eating everything but if you
or
give
whatever's
yourself,
faster, which is
yeah,
usually fast food, because you're
exactly.
like too lazy at the end of the day to prepare anything, so you go for whatever's there, whatever's
Yeah.
easier, and then you end up kind of
But if you eat from, in the morning, you're not going to crave anything at night because your
your body's
body
fed.
is fed throughout the
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
And that obviously comes to like the point where preparation and just knowing kind of planning is going to come into play if you want to hit real goals and obviously save money. Because I always say if you spend like on food every single day, buying food like out, come on, inflation is real right now. You're really spending way too much money on food rather
Yeah,
than
because eating healthy is not expensive,
prepping.
because I hear a lot of people saying that. You
No.
think about when you go to a restaurant, let's say you spend like $50 on dinner because you ordered an appetizer and whatever, your meal, your pop, whatever. $50 can get you honestly so much food at the grocery store. And that
It can get you a big thing of chicken breast,
Mhm.
and you
All the
can get
vegetables
fruit,
you need,
vegetables, and even a bag
rice,
of rice.
yeah,
There is your
potatoes,
meal prep.
whatever. Yeah, for the whole week.
So it's like we're really just making excuses at that point. I get that point.
Yeah,
I sometimes I have to call out some of my clients and be like,
me too.
I feel like it's all BS. I'm kidding.
Mm.
But no, validate everything that you feel, validate everything that you're doing, but also reevaluate what you're doing. And with this kind of like, I just want to like wrap this up with this little message to anyone that's either looking to compete, looking to perhaps just achieve a certain fitness goal for themselves, doesn't have to be competing. But if you think competing is going to make you fit and healthy, we said it this in a previous episode, we said it's far from the truth. And if you already have any of these patterns that we have mentioned before even competing, you need to get those things in check before hopping on a prep. Because the worst thing you can do if you have body dysmorphia right now and you have never competed, you think it's going to get better, it's only going to get worse because you're hyper focused on how you look 24/7. And you're going to get to your best, then you're going to get really, really lean and small, and then you're going to get bigger again. And these are things you need to accept. And these are like just demons that you need to be aware of, because if you think competing is going to fix anything, any eating habits or relationships with food or body dysmorphia, well, hate to tell you this, but it's just going to make it worse, and you probably will end up in a bad spot.
Well, one
So
thing I want to point out about that you just said was, when I'm prepping, and I did all this prep too, whenever I get super lean and I see myself in the mirror, I tell myself, well, you're only like, this is just temporary. I tell myself, this is just temporary. You're going to be gaining weight again soon. I
because at the
always tell
6 week
myself
mark,
that.
I hate myself at 6 weeks out. I am way too small.
Yeah, but I tell myself that. I'm like, oh my God, my jaw is so sunk
Yeah,
in. But I tell myself,
it's
you're
temporary.
not always going to be looking like this. This is just temporary. So then when I start to, I'm like, yeah, I told myself this is going to happen,
Yeah,
And
and
that
you
really has
accept
helped
it.
me. And yeah, it helps me accept it. Because post show, I sometimes don't really have like that hard of a time, but I find I do at points. But I feel like it does help me a lot because I prepare myself during prep, when
It's
you're
all
feeling
about
so
body
good
types
looking in the
too.
mirror. Yeah.
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 So you put your body, like post show, is a little more resilient. I don't want to say it's any easier by any means. It's just the way that it probably reacts to food and like the way it looks. But mentally, I'm not saying it's any easier. It's just you distribute your weight a little bit better, or your body has like the way that you put your body weight is like a little different, because someone like
Right.
me just blows.
No,
Like,
but see, I feel like we all feel like we do,
no, that's what I'm saying.
and
Mentally,
yeah,
like it's
yeah,
not any easier for you, but like what we see It's like what others see, not what we see as people, but we also have different body types. So not everyone's going to have the same visual results that, let's say, Britt and I will have, because we can get an X amount of pounds and it will look totally different on us. Like at any point. So that's kind of what I mean, because mentally we all struggle, whether it's like one struggles more than the other, it's trivial, like doesn't matter. But
and everyone thinks, I'll look at a fitness competitor and I'm like, oh my God, like how do they do it? But everybody struggles and a lot of people don't show it. So I don't want anyone to think that they're alone, because everybody does in one form or another. I've never talked to one person that hasn't experienced anything that we've said.
Well, except you last week. You're like, I was like, this girl is not telling us that.
Wait, what did I say that? I feel like I'm not prepping. So you said?
You're like, it doesn't even feel like I'm prepping. Like, I'm eating so much. I'm just doing 15-minute walks. And I was like, if someone that's actually suffering on peak week is like, but again, everyone is so different.
Well, I mean, I was more so talking post show
I'm kidding. You had like your first show was like hard as hell. Like you were really feeling that one. So because every prep is different.
The last one?
Not the last one, the one that you did
this year.
Pure Muscle Championships.
Oh yeah, it was awful.
So exactly. So every prep is different, everyone's different, every stage is different. So don't overthink it. And obviously, I hope this is a very sensitive topic, and I hope everyone got exactly what we're trying to say and nothing was out of context. And if you felt like some sort of either affected or triggered, I'm sorry, but I tried to like get the point across the best I could.
It's hard. It's hard to talk about a topic that everyone is very sensitive to, and maybe one way or another. If somebody is sensitive to it, they can take it different ways, but we're just trying to explain how we've experienced.
Yeah, this is based on personal.
Yeah.
And perhaps these will help you. Perhaps these will make you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling, just know. And when you're struggling, everyone else seems to be like just having a great time. Just know that these people are probably just struggling out like just as much or even more than you are. They just choose not to show it. And that's okay, because some people like to be more private about things. But just, you're not alone. That's all I'm trying to say. And then just be aware and be smart about the decisions that you make, what you put in your body, and how you look at every single thing that you do in your life, whether it's a weight loss journey, you want to compete, it's school related, life related. Just perception is everything. And that's something that I'm trying to learn, and how you look at every single either failure or success or thing that comes your way, because that will determine how that experience is going to serve you, to make you stronger, to make you weaker, or to just completely ruin you. So use your tools and resources and the people around you. There's nothing wrong with asking for help and expressing yourself. But that being said, wow, look at me go. With that being said, wow. You're like, I'm inspired. But with that being said, guys, it's always fun to just talk to Britt, and literally just feels like having a conversation. And then, we hope you guys enjoy it. That's all we care about.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Yeah. Bye-bye.